Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Welcome to NAT Chat. Tonight in our program we have Harry Malos. Harry Malos is a businessman, but as well as a counsellor. And it is a question how a successful businessman ends up being a counsellor, really people's person. Can you, first of all, welcome. And can you just explain to us this phenomenon?
Well, thank you very much. And it's an interesting question that you asked me to reflect on. In short, for me, I fell into the adjustment or to the fork in the road that I met. I was in business for a very long time, and I felt a need for me to contribute in a different way, and that need escalated. That I needed to have a greater understanding of how our behaviour and how the mind works. And as I saw that need, I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be educated and get a counselling degree, in which I did.
That makes me understand that need that you mentioned, usually it's an event. It's something that happens to our lives, isn't it?
Sure.
And you are a founder of Men's Christian Support Group, and being in that group for over 10 years,
12 years. Yeah.
12 years.
Yes.
12 years. What are the common issues men face in our society today? Challenges, if you like.
Yeah. Look, generally, a men have three fears that that affect them the most. The fear of being lonely.
Yes.
The fear of having what they've built crumble. And the other, the fear of not being loved.
Okay.
Usually all those three fears that men face are generally related to marital separation and separation from family environment. Usually when that happens, those three fears are all placed upon them.
Okay, but all right. I think it's going to be easier to make a person talk to you about his loneliness than a man talk about love issues. Is that easy?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think a simple answer to that is yes, the more intimate question of love and related to love isn't as easy to express. But as a counsellor, I think that we get there by trust. When someone trusts you, then they are quite open to discuss even more sensitive issues, such as their personal life and love.
Because I think the average person is not easy to, to my perception, just to open up, especially males.
Yes.
We want to,
yes.
It's not that males do not love, but I believe the average person really hides that part of his life, even though he acts according to that sometimes. Yes. But how do you unpack that one? How do you open that up?
Well, I think you're very right, Paul, by saying that the average male doesn't like talking about the personal and intimate issues because there is a stigma attached that when you do things like that, that you are a weak person.
Yes.
And males do not express their emotions.
Yes.
Or males don't want to be seen crying. Now, you mentioned the men's group. There's an environment in the men's group that we have which encourages that.
Okay.
It is a safe place, a place where people can show trust and accept trust. And when you set that environment, men, yes, even men, are able to express the most intimate emotions and even allow tears to roll.
Okay. And usually we do another issue that I can see is, for us, we usually learn by mistakes we make.
Right, yes.
But we don't want to make mistakes. And then I'm getting stressed on this one, and I don't want to make mistakes, and then I isolate myself.
Yes, yes.
And how can I get help in that situation in a men's group, for example? I'll just pick an example there.
Okay, well, usually when we make a mistake, we feel that our mistake will be seen as inadequate. We will see ourselves as not being able to provide a particular need as a man. Or another reason is that when we feel like we're inadequate or when we make a mistake, we feel a kind of rejection. And we feel rejection, and that's very strong to a male when they feel rejected. And therefore, we don't like to show other people or tell other people or admit that we make mistakes.
Okay. And now, back to the business situation, we talk about, you know, some feelings, you know, just sporadically some examples. But I would like to now connect now with those two examples taken into account. Do you find, and that's a question, that your business background, how your business background all of a sudden comes into this? Do you think there's any help from your experience coming now to the counseling?
Yes, because in business, if you do not learn from your mistakes, guess what happens? You end up bankrupt.
That makes sense?
Yeah. So you've got to learn what has been productive in business. You've got to learn what has been costly.
Okay.
And if you cannot concede that, soon your accountant will, or soon you'll be broke.
That means we save, even from psychological perspective, a bit of a cost in life if we don't deal with our own feelings.
Yes, a great collaboration. Yes, we do. If we not admit to how we feel, if we not express how we feel, if we, more importantly, deny how we feel, suppress it is the right word, that feeling will come out in another way. And usually that other way isn't a positive. Usually that other way is blinded. We cannot see it. We become addicts to things.
That is very interesting. Thank you for being with us tonight. Let's have a bit of a break and we'll come back shortly.
Sure.
Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Hey guys, what'd you like?
Coffee, thanks.
2 coffees, please. Coffees. What kind of coffee would he like?
Cappuccino.
Cappuccino. What can I get for you?
I'll have a coffee, thanks.
Yeah, 2 coffees, please. Awesome. And what kind of coffee would you like?
Cappuccino, thanks.
2 cappuccinos.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts, but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up? Authorised by Australia's Right to Know, Sydney.
William Tyrrell was abducted from his nana's home on the New South Wales mid-north coast on the 12th of September 2014. And somebody knows who did it. Do you? There is a $1 million reward for information that leads police to William. That's 1 million reasons to make the call. Contact Crime Stoppers now. 1-800-333-000. Make the call.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
Welcome back, and now we'll continue the interview with Harry Mallos. Harry, you've touched the point before that there is a danger that not facing my own emotions when something happens, that might end up in addiction. Do you think the system today we have in society, we go to a court situation, or do you think the system helps men in particular, talking about this sort of side of society, to face our own issues when we face a separation, for example?
Yep.
And that can cause quite a bit of grief.
Yep.
I can presume that.
Yep.
And can you sort of elaborate as an example a separation? How the society, the court can help or not help for me not to fall into any dangerous situation?
Sure. Well, my feelings are, Paul, that the family court system can never be perfect.
Okay.
Whatever position they stand, it will advantage a certain person and disadvantage the other. What I do believe, however, that can be improved is the support that it gives to both parties in situations where there's family breakdown. I think there's more need in supporting people, more so than actually creating laws to get it right.
Okay, talking about then the support, can you then specify your answer to the example of separation as we talk about that? What sort of stages I will go through? Then something main one, I suppose, a main ones. So, and how can I get help or support in a men's group situation?
Sure. Well, one of the first symptoms in separation is anger and frustration. Parties feel that they got the raw end of the deal, that they've been pushed aside, it wasn't their fault. So generally with men, the first symptom is frustration and anger. Now, how support can help this is by validating the person and saying, I hear you're angry, tell me your story. Let him or her express their frustration. That is what support does.
That means at first stage, there is a comfort in my situation of separation to express the way I feel.
Yes.
Or the separation itself, or event, or my feelings, or both.
Hang on. First of all is that you are validated with your feelings.
Okay.
That means I hear you and I recognize that you're feeling this way.
That means I'm not crazy the way I feel. That's a real feeling.
Yes, it's a feeling,
I recognize it.
And that's the first stage.
Okay.
People need to be validated of where they're at.
All right.
And that is the most dangerous, because if they do not get validated, regardless whether they are right or wrong, they need to be validated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then means yes, I've got the reassurance I'm not crazy. The situation is difficult.
Yes.
And then I'm able to sort of to face it.
Yes.
With some sort of logical conclusions.
Yes,
it helps me, isn't it?
Yes, of course it does.
And then the first is the frustration. Then what happens?
Okay, well, then there's other problems like financial situations, and that's the next stage. Then after financial is the personal loneliness that sets in amongst men. So it goes from frustration and anger to financial issues and confusion, and the final stage is how do I deal now with my life as far as loneliness, and I don't have the social backing as what I had in a family environment.
Okay. Then in that situation, going back to the courts and the system, because for the benefit of our audience, and sometimes politicians, when they watch, do they help at all in that process, and at what stage they can do that?
Well,
because they come at the end of the court,
yes,
and they need to make a decision at the end of the day for some sort of issues, isn't it?
Exactly. So the law is there, and the
because
family...
we can see a lot of violence. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And is it justifiable, the violence? Is it the system that is wrong?
Yes.
Is it something that we can correct in the system instead of having those bad news all the time?
Well, yes, again, and I don't want to lay a heavy hand on lawyers and so on that are able to stretch people's emotions for their own benefit in order to substantiate their fees.
Okay.
I don't want to go into that subject because
but that is real, though.
It is real, and it does occur.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, the family law system suggests to you, try and work it out. If you can't work it out, we'll make the decision, and normally that decision you might not like. So encourage to work it out. But lawyers get involved, and you know, they give you all these privileges and rights, and then at the end of the day they say that you might not be entitled to them.
That means from the legal perspective you might have some sort of struggles and issues. Now, how does the men's group can help supporting me in that situation?
The men's group isn't there to actually correct your wrongs or give you advice to what you do or give you their opinion or tell you who's right and who's wrong. The whole purpose of the men's group is to support men who are in that position. Okay. We offer a safe place where we support them. All right. We don't ask who's right or wrong. We just say we care about how you feel. Okay. We care about your position. Right. We care about the fact that you are lonely. Okay. We care about that you are frustrated.
On that point exactly, I would like to say that the men's group really, as a support group, looks at me as a wounded person, even though physically not wounded.
Yes, yes.
And somehow walks with me in that period of time.
That's exactly right.
Okay, then in this, because you mentioned anger before, and people talk about anger, especially in divorce situations, and separation, as we take as an example. Based on your experience, does this help me in my anger?
Does anger help?
No anger. Does the group help me in my anger when I come and be part of it?
Yes. I think it's a good question. And yes, usually when we receive men who have not been with us for the first time, the fact that they're angry and they're allowed to express their anger. Okay. They're allowed to go through the process. Right. Anger is a process. Okay. We cannot deny it. Mm-hmm. We cannot say, don't get angry, because again, it will come back in another way. So we say, okay, we hear you. We hear that you're angry. Tell us how you feel. Tell us exactly what is the anger about. And usually it's anger is not a personality disorder. Usually anger is not really anger. What it is frustration, that they're frustrated.
Thank you for this, Harry. We'll come back in a moment.
To every child's development, an important message from the Australian Toy Association.
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage, because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, these humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe and warm? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 Oz Help.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All make up 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
Welcome back with our discussion with Harry Malos. Harry, just to continue on with the anger management, how men are receptive to get help when they are in that situation, when they are angry because things did not go their way, for one way or another?
Yeah. Well, yes, they're not as receptive as we would like them to begin with. They fear that they don't need to justify their anger because they fear that it's justified itself.
All right.
They feel that they've been undone by society, by the law, by their spouses, by their family, and therefore they don't need to explain to you why they're angry. They're just angry. So there is a slight difficulty in actually coming in for support. They want to stay there.
Do they feel that they keeping anger, they keep the control of themselves as well?
Yes, very good point. Very good point. That anger helps them to keep control of the situation.
Okay.
That if they lose their
does it really?
Absolutely not. It confuses it even further.
Okay.
Even further, because it doesn't satisfy anything. It doesn't. Anger is good. Anger is good when you are in a safe environment. But when anger is used to hide away other issues, those issues never address. You never address them.
Okay. But talking about those situations, is there any space for men to tolerate more? Do they need to do that? Do they need to forgive more? Can they postpone wrath easily? How do they get into this area of positive reaction instead of being angry?
Okay, usually the steps, unfortunately, are not that good, because usually they need to really fall hard before they say, I've tried everything. I've tried through anger. I've tried through defending myself, and I tried all these other things. But all it seems to happen is negative feelings towards me, and I'm in a deeper hole than what I was before. Usually, and it's unfortunate that I say that is the time when men in general admit, hang on, I've tried this way. I need another approach.
That means the experience in itself, the negative experience is what guides men to look the positive response to anger.
Yeah, a prolonged negative experience.
Okay.
Right. Because
when we say prolonged, in a separation situation, as we picked that example tonight, how long do you think is going to take for a person, an average person, to sort of?
That's a very difficult question. It all depends on the individual.
Okay.
Some people react more quicker than others. Others are more difficult to learn.
And is it dependent on their will, I suppose, as well, isn't it? How much they really want to.
Yeah, I think it depends on the culture as well.
Okay.
You know, a European culture is different to Anglo-Saxon culture, and they've been brought up differently. They've been brought up that men don't make mistakes, and it's okay for men to be continuously angry, because it kind of validates their gender.
And you unpacked for us quite a few things tonight, and we thank you for that. Now I will ask, I'll touch a different topic here. The group is called Men's Christian Support Group. The word Christian, is it because of the religion? Do you think that is the?
Well, I wouldn't like to call it religion, because religion, you automatically think that there's a set of rules that we need to abide by.
Okay.
And the men's group isn't about that. It's more about values.
All right.
We have Christian values, and we don't hide the fact, but we don't have rules. We don't say that unless you reach a certain stage, you can't come into the men's group. That's where religion is different to coming into a group that has values.
Okay, don't you think though, I'll touch religion topic now, don't you think Christ said that God doesn't like divorce?
Yes.
But you need to deal with somebody who's divorced now, going through divorce.
Yes.
How do you comfort that person when you call yourself Christian and all of a sudden Christ doesn't like divorce, God doesn't like it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, generally God doesn't like sin, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't want you to help the person who's in sin.
That means in this case, God forgives me on that.
Absolutely, God forgives continuously. And if we understand that theory, the better life will be, because we don't have to go by certain rules that you called religion before. Our men's group is not based on religion.
Okay, because even myself, I'm inclined to support the Christian view of this, and especially when Christ found that incredible power to forgive his enemies.
That's right.
And that is an ultimate sort of situation. Do you think it's possible for us as men to reach that point, to say, I forgive my enemies?
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting question again, Paul, that you raise. It all comes down to self-awareness.
Okay.
When you are aware that you have made mistakes as well, when you are aware that you would like to be forgiven for the mistakes you've made, perhaps you're in a better position to forgive others as well.
All right.
These are some of the values that Christian faith bring, as opposed to what religion brings.
All right. Okay, because religion is really a bunch of rules together. That's the perception we get.
Exactly.
Harry, thank you for being with us in this subject, which is not easy. And we, I think, found out more things, and we are packed more things. And you've been practical in our discussion tonight. We appreciate, and I hope we're going to see you again. To our viewers, thank you for being with us. And hopefully we're going to see you soon again next week.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened last time.
Oh, look, I can't believe they're not running in.
Fine.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can you believe he works here with us?
But did you hear about what he did last week? Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, hang on, he's coming.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay, you got two.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, look at him. That guy's a freak.
Can you believe it? He won gold in the 100.
Legend.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme. Om. Allah.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. And again we're speaking with Vincent Peel. He's a former Catholic priest and a grief counsellor. When we closed last week, Vincent, we were speaking about the role of women in the Catholic Church and addressing to some extent the fact that laity has moved into hospitals and charities, etc. Let's go back to what it looked like, say, one of the hospitals. They were all nuns when you walked in.
Yes, hospitals, schools, the university halls, staffed by the Loreto nuns, the Jesuit priests. When I went to De La Salle in Malvern in 1963, most of the teachers were brothers. This year, for the first time, De La Salle has its first lay head in 100 years. Good. The last brother finished up last year. And change is coming. You can't stop it.
No.
It's like people of one generation say, well, we can't recognise brothers, priests or nuns today. Well, the dress that we might have recognised prior to Vatican II was simply the peasant clothing of another period of time, and that they didn't change. I particularly remember at Geelong Presbytery, people would make comments about the beautiful furniture and works of art. And I said, well, strangely enough, that's come about because of poverty. Yes. Because we never threw this out, we've just kept what we've had. But now it's become very fashionable.
Yeah, so now you've got laity running those sorts of enterprises. Has that changed the delivery of service, do you think?
I think it has. Because much of the standards in delivering these services today have to be met, and those standards are set and determined by government bodies and authorities.
Yes.
And hospitals, for example, and aged care facilities have to meet accreditation standards. Now, those standards were accepted once upon a time when you had nuns running these hospitals, because they were just the embodiment of total service, cleanliness, care and love of the patient, and treated the patient as if they were the body of Christ himself.
Yes.
Where today, I think unfortunately, with the emerging laity, has become this professional persona, which tends to set up, I think, a fairly clinical dynamic, so that the relational component you would have had in a trusting relationship with a brother, priest or nun is no longer there.
Yes, this issue of the body of Christ, that would also come into charity as well, I would imagine. It's something which is worth addressing from the point of view of the need for the purpose of the action to be brought into the fore. To follow the regulation is fine, and they do a very good job, but the purpose of it seems to have been lost.
Lost along the way. And I think that might partly be due to the fact too that since Vatican II and the decline of vocations, we've lost about 2 or 3 generations of mass-going Catholics. We're moving into an area now of what Benedict XVI and John Paul II have called moral relativism. Well, I'll only take on board what suits me. And I don't think that's quite fair. I can remember as the parish priest, my role was employer, manager and proprietor, and sometimes I would take non-Catholics over Catholics in the school, as these Christians from other traditions were just so grateful to have the opportunity to come into an environment where they could see their children grow according to the gospel, as opposed to Catholics who just took it for granted. Right. And one lady came to see me and unfortunately said, "Oh, I heard down at the local baby creche you're a real ogre." And to which I replied, "Well, I hope I don't disappoint you."
That's true.
And it just so happened they hadn't had their 5-year-old child baptised whom they wanted enrolled in the parish primary school.
So we're in the parish now, and Vatican II's come in, and you're doing your. Were you in charge of a parish by that time?
Yes.
Yes. So you had your own parish to run. And then what happened?
Well, I've always enjoyed observing human beings and human behaviour. Faith-wise, I was looking at the institution and realising, as I discovered as a parish priest, that most of my time could have been handled by a layman. I mean, the financial administration of a parish, each year I'd have to sit down with the auditors from the Commonwealth Government to go through the school budget. I wouldn't even know what the budget of the school tax shop was like, let alone the budget for running a primary school. And I'm thinking, well, is this what I came to be ordained for?
Right.
And I just kept coming to the conclusion, no, it wasn't. And that what was also happening with an ageing clergy was that younger clergy were being asked to carry on greater workloads, greater stress. Catholics, I think, lived at a time where brothers, priests and nuns turned on like hot and cold water taps.
Yes.
But the realisation of do you look at the church's mission or maintenance? And I was basically doing maintenance.
Maintenance, yes. And so this call to mission then led you to look at an alternative.
To leave and think, well, how else can I make a contribution, not only to the church but also to the wider community? And I'd always maintained that as a Catholic priest, my mission wasn't only for Catholics, it was for all people.
Right.
And I still reflect a lot with the question, is God a Catholic?
That's a very interesting question to ask, and particularly at this point, Vincent, because we're approaching a break, so I'm not going to allow you to answer that right now. We'll be back in a moment.
Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children. So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
Australia Day means a time for reflection in one way, where we're really lucky to live in such a country, and it's really an opportunity to connect with people who are really close to you and important in your life. I hope and wish for a society that truly respects everybody in every shape and form. On Australia Day, I'll be actually at the tennis, and I'll be sharing that with my friend. Doesn't get much better than that, really.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
Wow, she looks like she had a big night.
Yeah. Nice glasses, Alice.
Hey, Alice. Do you want me to put the blinds down?
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motor car. Enjoy.
Welcome back. Watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Vincent Peel, is a former Catholic priest and a grief counsellor. In our early conversation, Vincent, you mentioned about spending some time as a Benedictine monk. Can you take us through how you came to make that decision and what it was like?
For a long time, I'd always had this yearning about contemplative prayer. And during my first year at Werribee in 1970, we went for a picnic lunch to the Cistercian monastery at Tarrawarra out in the Yarra Valley, and I was quite taken with the monks, the routine, the rhythm of the lifestyle, and that stayed with me for a long time, to the point that I was able to get permission from Archbishop Frank Little to go and explore that vocation, which I did with the Sylvestrine Benedictine monks of Arcadia in New South Wales for 5 years. And the Benedictine motto is orare et labore, work and prayer. They didn't quite have a 50-50% dimension.
Okay.
So work was a fair part of the program. The community was ageing. I was also studying music full time, as well as looking after the guest house, doing spiritual direction and counselling with Catholic clergy and non-Catholic clergy and lay people, and my health broke down in the end. So I felt the best thing to do was to come back to the marketplace.
Right. Well, when you describe what you were doing there with the spiritual direction, etc., that was a fairly heavy workload, but it sounds like a fairly important one too. How did you feel about executing some of those functions?
Profoundly privileged. Profoundly privileged to have had the opportunities, as I have been as a priest, and I will always be grateful to the Catholic Church for what it gave me over 25 years, an opportunity that very few professions do give, to enter into the hearts and souls and minds and lives of people who trust you with the most sacred aspects of their life and their being.
Yes.
And so this aspect of spiritual direction with Catholic and non-Catholic clergy, listening to their struggles about finding God in the darkness, listening to their own personal journeys about broken relationships sometimes with married clergy. And while a lot of Catholics say, yes, priests should be married, well, go and live in a presbytery for a week as a wife and see if you'd like to spend the rest of your life there. It's very challenging and very draining.
Yes.
Because Catholics have an opportunity that most of the other non-Catholic denominations don't have, and that is an expectation that there will always be a priest available.
Yes. Yes, I've spoken to priests earlier on, and their indication was the fact that the hours that they work and being called out at all, that they couldn't be married. No woman would be able to stand it. Just contemplation is you've had been drawn towards contemplation. You mentioned before. Were there any daily practices which you entered into, both in the monastery and before or after, that contribute to that?
Yes, particularly was the chanting of the Divine Office at certain times of the day, that the monks would stop what they were doing, move to the chapel, settle in quietly, and then focus into chanting the office, whether it was matins or lauds or sext or vespers or compline. And it broke up the day and gave the day a certain harmony where you actually had that time to be with this unseen mystery of God incarnate in Christ. But sometimes, like in any household, there was work to be done, meals to be cooked, laundry to be washed, shopping to be done, monks to be taken to doctor's appointments, weekend supply.
Right.
So I didn't always quite get there.
Yes, and that would have felt like a bit of an amputation, I'd imagine.
A little bit, yes. But I always, even when I was on work duties, I would always slip away. If I was on cooking the evening meal, I would slip over to the chapel for 20 minutes, just quiet prayer. And often my quiet prayer was simply the repetition of a simple mantra, like, Lord Jesus, have mercy on me, and watching my breathing. And I may have focused on the sanctuary lamp so that I didn't get distracted.
Right.
So I found something like that a very helpful tool on the pathway to contemplation.
To contemplation, yes. Did you feel yourself reaching the contemplative state often, or was it something which was valued but not frequent?
Extremely valued. I think contemplation is looking in the darkness and waiting for a star to appear. It's almost waiting for daybreak, anticipating the dawn.
Yes.
And that's what keeps you going. There's almost a thirst there.
Yes, it's about patience, isn't it? It is
a lot of patience.
Yes, yes.
There's an old story told from, I think, the monks of the Egyptian period before Western monasticism was established, when one monk asked a senior monk, well, what do you do here in the monastery? He said, well, we get up, we fall down, we get up, we fall down, we get up, we fall down.
Yes, yes. And some of the most brilliant stories have been written by people about contemplation, like St. John of the Cross and others.
You think of St. Teresa of Avila, the great 16th century Cistercian mystic and reformer, who succinctly said that prayer is none other than spending time with the beloved. Now, just to take that sentence and to stay with it, now how do I spend time with the beloved? Works of mercy, prayer, silence, care, consideration, realising the stranger next to me may well be the face of Christ, whatever colour, creed they might be.
Yes.
I think that was also the challenge, and one of the great people in that area of looking at contemplative life like that was the American monk Thomas Merton.
Merton, of course.
Who died in 1968 on a trip with Interfaith Dialogue.
Interfaith Dialogue, we'll come back to that. We'll be back in a moment.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Sport is for everyone.
No matter who you are or where you're from.
There's no place for discrimination in sport.
And everyone should feel welcome, safe,
respected and get a fair go.
Whether you're a player, a spectator, a coach or an official.
What do you want from your sport?
Are you ready to make a difference? Sport is for everyone.
And everyone starts with you.
Keep your sport inclusive,
safe, fair and fun.
For more information, go to playbytherules.net.au.
With the warmer months upon us, here are some poolside safety tips. Because not everyone can swim like Clarkie and I. S is for supervision. Always have an adult watching over the kids. A is for Oswim. Have your children taught to swim by an Oswim licensed teacher. F is for fencing. Ensure secure fencing surrounds your pool. E is for emergencies. Always be prepared. R is for rule. Ensure your family know the rules around your pool. Be safer and have fun.
Welcome back. We're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Vincent Peel. He's a former Catholic priest and a grief counsellor. Vincent, we were talking about someone who, in the area of contemplation, is renowned, is Thomas Merton. What are the telling things that Thomas Merton had to say about contemplation which carried you into, say, the Benedictine arena, was there anything that stuck there?
I think in my case it came about from reading his biography called The Seven-Storey Mountain. And Thomas Merton certainly had a very colourful life. Didn't come with a full Catholic pedigree, but was drawn to the contemplative life. And even in his own Cistercian monastery at Kentucky, had tensions with the abbot, Dom Fox, who eventually let him build a hermitage at the monastery of Gethsemane in Kentucky. And then his experience of contemplation then led him to look at other traditions, such as the Buddhist tradition, to find out more and more about trying to discover the essence of the unseen God through contemplative prayer.
Yes.
And why that is so important today is, and I believe that the church of the future is going to be a contemplative church, a reflecting church, a prayerful church, a church that says, okay, we've got the corporal works of mercy, we've got all of these wonderful institutions doing great works, but where does the heart of God breathe in all of that? And it must come within silence and stillness. It's a bit like Elijah when he was at the mountain of Horeb, and in his despair and desperation he said to Yahweh, take my life, I've had enough. And he went into a deep sleep, and he woke up and there was some scones and food, and he continued on his journey. The contemplative journey is not an easy journey because it calls for discipline and willpower.
Yes.
And we're very much controlled by our egos. And the Dalai Lama, in much of his talking and writing, talks about us being in control of the ego rather than us being dictated to by the ego. So it's learning to say no. It's about delaying gratification, not as an end in itself, but a means to being able to experience that which we're searching for.
And that which we're searching for is basically indescribable.
The mystery of Godhead revealed in Christ.
What do you think, though, even though we can't describe it, what would be the possible fruits, like, say, in a monastery and you are doing as much contemplation as you can, what's the fruit in the outer world, do you think, from that type of activity?
If I can use this scene, it's a bit like, the monastery's a bit like a lighthouse on the dark coast. It shines, and people are drawn to the light. And for people to know that there are people praying for them, on behalf of them, that they can go there, that there are these people who've given their lives over completely to this lifestyle of prayer.
Yes.
They not only get the benefit of their relationship, but also the monk gets the experience of, at times, of looking into the darkness and sometimes seeing a star twinkling and knowing through the gift of the Holy Spirit that somehow I'm being touched by this unseen God called love.
And what does that produce in the experiencer? What does it produce in yourself when you experience that over, say, 5-year time?
It produced then what it still produces now, particularly in the service of the gospel.
Yes.
Just a simple thing like some months ago I was asked to go and go organist at a parish church which hadn't had an organist for years. It's an extra commitment of a Saturday night and Sunday morning. And the very kind parish priest, after he greeted me and said hello, said, well, how much do I pay you? I thought, well, he's a very good Catholic priest. And I said, look, that'll be fine, Father. But the joy came to me in knowing that I was able to give something to this faith community. And I believe that I leave that faith community richer for what I've been able to give to it.
Well, of course, that music being one of the keys to contemplation anyway.
Well, as Augustine says,
yes.
he who sings prays twice. I don't know what he said about organ playing, though.
I'm sure it was positive. But I think when you talk about the growth of that occasional star that you see, and the corroboration of the richness of love, of the essential love, translating that into the world, did you have any experience of translating that into the world, or did you think it just changed you and you became something?
Two ways. It changed me for the better, because I was doing something good, and also that another person benefited from what I could do.
Yes.
One of my own personal spiritual deeds still today is to make sure that I do a good deed each day, a deliberate good deed of helping somebody. Might be a simple thing of just here at the traffic lights, making sure that an elderly person crossing the road gets across the road safely.
Yes.
Even though I fear I might get a handbag with a brick in it because of the society we live in.
Yes.
Little things present themselves.
Yes, yes, yes. The opportunity to be love is perhaps what it gives you is the ability to recognise the opportunity to be love.
But also to receive something back for that.
Yes. Yes.
Not to look for it.
No.
Because you can't otherwise. It's almost like the measure of love ought to be to love without measure, as Christ demonstrated on the cross.
Definitely. Vincent, we'll need to finish here, but we haven't covered your pathway into grief counselling. So would you agree to come back and do that?
I'd be delighted to come back.
Thank you very
It'd be
much,
my pleasure.
Vincent.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. We're speaking with Vincent Peel. Vincent is a former Catholic priest and now a grief counsellor. Vincent, we touched on grief counselling when we spoke last time. Now's the time to explore it further. There's two types or two names applied to them. One is the grief counselling, and then the other one is bereavement counselling. Is there a discernible difference between those two?
The grief counselling focuses immediately on whatever loss the person has suffered. Mm-hmm. So the grief and the loss is something that they've valued, something they've loved, has been taken away from them, is no longer theirs.
Yes.
And the bereavement is that period of mourning, of adjusting to a new environment where that object or person that's no longer there becomes the period of adjustment to.
Okay, so it's actually a continuum on that basis then.
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Oh, okay.
They are entwined together. Though bereavement does have its own particular tasks of rebuilding, reliving, renegotiating life. How do I adapt? How do I change? And how do I find certainty once more where I once may have had it in a very stable, life-giving relationship that's ended through sudden death, for example, or unfortunately through divorce or separation.
Yes. Would that expand also to include loss of a job, a long-term job?
Definitely, yeah.
Yes, okay.
We've traditionally always thought of grief and loss, I think, just in terms of death, which is fully understandable. But as the world as our world has widened from a village concept from World War II up to the digital age, which I think was baptised in about 1984, we're only coming to understand that grief and loss is an extremely significant part in people's lives, even by the fact of getting older. But the impact today in society, where we're faced with so much of our work being involved in technology and online, you look at the car industry in Australia, for example, Holden, Toyota, Ford, Geelong, Altona, men and women who've lost their jobs, for example, who've got mortgages, got kids at school, got bills to pay, cars to pay off, enormous amount of grief and loss. And so the bereavement for them is to readjust to a new landscape. And how do I come to terms with adjusting to that landscape while still growing and hoping that I can sustain what I've had before with my family, security, relationships.
It possibly is also at a subliminal level also. As you're talking about the car industry in particular, I can remember when the first Holden was produced.
1948, yeah, the Holden.
That doesn't happen anymore, or won't happen. So there would be a subliminal grief amongst people of our sort of vintage.
Our generation,
at that time.
I certainly experience grief and loss, for example, in facing technology, because my brain's not wired for technology. And I hear young people say, well, there's no excuse today for not being able to do internet banking or send pictures or iCloud or DownCloud or no clouds or whatever. And I just pull my hair out in despair and go and have 48 cups of tea and a dozen vanilla slices.
Yeah, so that's a sort of a generic grieving, and you also get news events like the Malaysian Airlines thing. I suspect that something like that, which is persistently in the news, we've found it, we haven't. There's a beep, there isn't a beep. Have you ever detected a movement amongst your clients in relation to something like that?
Yeah, well, not only to that, but related to it, you'd call that technically a limbo loss. It's like a woman may have noticed having a shower, she's got a lump on the breast. So she goes along to a regular GP and he says, look, we'll do a biopsy and come back in 2 weeks' time. So that woman leaves the surgery with a big question mark, often tied to, well, have I got the dreaded C? And so her cognitions or thought patterns will be preoccupied. She may have a loss of appetite. She may just sit and stare outside the window. She may disengage. She might just function, just do the jobs that she has to until she waits the day that she goes back to the doctor to get those results. So those limbo losses, the aeroplane ones, a fine example of that. But you think of the impact of what I think 260 people from different parts of the world, and the impact on their families. Go back to those 17 men who were entombed in a mine in New Zealand some years back. What's still going on through the minds and hearts of their partners, their family, their friends, their relatives? It's just somehow trying to find peace with a question that has no answer.
Yes, without the body and the resolution of that particular aspect of it, it is ongoing.
Ongoing, and it's not so much at times finding an answer when there is no answer, but rather adjusting and trying to find peace with a question, because that grief and loss will never disappear. It'll remain there.
So this opens up, and we'll talk more about it as we talk, but this opens up the potential for there to be an ongoing general grieving which sits behind quite a lot of social interfaces, including the activities of gangs, the activity of young people, use of mind-altering substances, heavy gambling. Would you see those as being as ways of dealing with that subliminal
very
grief?
Unhealthy ways of dealing with grief and loss. I think sitting down having 20 cups of tea all day and no food is fairly normal, particularly in the death of a partner or a child or that. But again, we're looking at different generations.
Yes.
So perhaps a younger generation who I may not be that familiar with may find comfort in substance abuse.
Yes.
Because we're in a culture now where drugs are here to stay, whether we like it or not.
And whether we like it or not, time is also here to stay as well. We'll be back in a moment.
Locals here made the shocking discovery this morning. Police have sealed off the entire beach.
There is a killer. One of the worst killers in Australia. Skin cancer. Every year, skin cancer kills over 1,700 Australians. Don't be a victim. This summer, protect yourself against skin cancer.
1 in 5 of us are affected.
10% of us will have at least one.
And the numbers double for Indigenous Australians.
Just as quick as a click of your fingers, it can happen to anyone at any time.
What would you do if someone close to you was having a seizure?
Imagine if it was your child.
My brother has it. My sister has it.
I have it.
I have it too.
You're not alone.
You're not different.
And you have a bright future ahead of you.
So click for kids!
I'm Amy Lee, and I'm part of it.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
Which one are you going to go? Boy. Oh, you can't. Just a minute. Okay.
Just needs a bit of discipline. Can I help you with your bags?
Thank you.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Vincent Peel. He's a former Catholic priest and now a grief counsellor. We've sort of uncovered the fact that grief and mourning and bereavement are part of a continuum and intertwined. What sort of activity do you get involved in dealing with that diverse subject with people? What's the process?
The main area that I've grown into over many years is about how do I communicate with grieving people? Death being the obvious one, and yet the same grief responses can apply to one elderly lady I knew who'd never married, but whose 18-year-old cat had died. And yet some people say, oh, well, that's not real grief. You know, you don't mourn a cat. Well, sorry to disappoint you, but that's penetrating grief for that person, because that cat is symbolic of a family, a social family, a network of relationships, and her pain and loss can be as genuine and deep as someone mourning the death of a partner or a child. Mm-hmm. So the language really is to look at the language of empathy, and what happens, sadly enough, people with good intentions will say to grieving people, well, you know, your husband lived had a happy life, and he's with God now. Mm. And the husband may have died at the age of 42, and his partner says, well, I don't want him with God, I want him here now. I feel quite cheated because I've got 3 children, I've got a mortgage. Mm. You know, why did my husband have to have a heart attack and die at work? Mm. So in using empathic language, I just simply break the word empathy down to the ability to embrace my pain and the why of empathy can equal whatever the loss. So for example, you'll get a 16-year-old young boy or girl today will get a text message from their girlfriend or boyfriend at the time saying, I think you're this, that and the other, and I don't want to see you again. And the 16-year-old goes home and says to mum or dad, well, you know, my girlfriend's told me to jump off a cliff or something, and kid ends up in tears. And if a parent is wise enough and realising that they too were 16, even though their own child might dispute the fact, they will realise that their son or daughter is going through genuine grief. So the role of the grief counsellor is not to fix grief, it's not to remove it, it's not to solve it, but it's somehow to fill that grief with my presence. Mm-hmm. So that can come about through my use of language. So saying to this lady whose 42-year-old husband had a heart attack at work and died and left a mortgage and 3 children, rather than say, well, look, you know, another 6 months, you'll be over it and you'll have a new man in your life, just say, look, it sounds as though your whole world has been turned upside down. Mm. I can't understand what you're going through. And often too, actions can be a good indication of how empathy is translated. Because when people are faced with grieving people, they will often do with grieving people what they'll do with ordinary people down the street. They'll avoid them. Mm. And anyone suffering grief, the one thing they don't want is to be avoided. And I can think of a case of a very good Christian family in Melbourne where a young son had hanged himself in tragic circumstances. And after 3 weeks, the mother went back to work, and somebody said, well, you know, don't worry, your son's with God, now you've got an angel in heaven. And she said, I don't want an angel in heaven. She said, I want my son here and now. Yes. And even though people's intentions are good, and it's a normal reaction too, that if you are coming close to somebody who's got profound grief and loss issues, yeah, we just tend to avoid them. Yes. Because we don't like the hard yards. And yet the hard yard says, well, I must be prepared to go and be with that person. I can't say anything, but perhaps I can do something. And so to the young mum with 3 kids, look, I'm taking your 3 kids out for the day. The kitchen's a mess. You go out and I'm cleaning up your house.
Would it be something that you'd suggest that part of the solution for it might be children at school be given an awareness of grief and its power?
Well, interesting you bring that topic up because children innately have that. If you've noticed with young kiddies whose pet canary has died, or pet budgie, or pet fish, they will be the first ones to act out ritual in relation to loss. So they'll organise a prayer service, and the dead budgerigard, whose name is Billy or Bertie or something, is put into a shoebox, and a grave is dug, and Billy the budgie's lovingly folded up in cotton wool and laid to rest, and there might be a Lord's Prayer said, or Jesus protect my pet budgie because he's gone to budgie heaven, and a cross planted there, and there's a whole ritual that's carried out to externalise the grief. And yet, strangely enough, when it comes to funerals, we'll say to children, oh no, you can't go to grandma's funeral, it'll be too upsetting. But you go and get the little 10-year-old on an Xbox machine who's playing war games, and there's blood and guts and slaughter going all over the computer screen, and we're trying to say to this child he's got no concept of life or death.
Yes, it's interesting. That would you subscribe to the view that the movement away from the village context has exacerbated that? Because in the village context, you were there when granddad and grandma died, etc., etc., etc.
The seasons of life and the seasons of heart came to the child. The child wasn't denied the harsh realities of life, that people do die, that grandma and grandpa don't live forever. But today, because we've shifted away, we've also moved into a fairly narcissistic culture where there's much emphasis on the beauty of the body and the person remaining eternally youthful. Well, no amount of palm olive or Omo is going to alter the ageing process.
Nor time. We've run out of it. We'll be back in a moment.
It's easy for things to go wrong around water. More so if you can't swim.
It's great seeing kids confident in the water and enjoying themselves. An important part of keeping kids safer around water is learning to swim.
There are over 600 registered swimming schools that run the Australian Unity Learn to Swim program. To find one, go to the Swim Australia website.
RSPCA, for all creatures, great and small.
Every day, in many ways, the Royal Flying Doctor Service takes the finest care to Australia's furthest corners so that all Australians can enjoy the best of health. The Royal Flying Doctor Service has been taking care of Australians for over 80 years. But we still need your help to continue providing emergency rescue and essential health care to remote and rural communities. Make a donation or become a supporter and help keep the Flying Doctor flying.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Vincent Peel about grief counselling. Grief counselling, bereavement, funerals. A lot of funerals now are not in churches anymore. They're in chapels, etc. Lay that out a bit. What's the impact of that?
Much of the impact of that goes back to Lionel Murphy, who in the early 70s took the whole area of hatch, match and dispatch out of the hands of the clergy and opened it up for civil celebrants. So today, roughly, there would only be a third of funerals would be conducted in churches by clergy. 2/3 are now conducted by civil celebrants, chapels, funeral homes, crematoria, in a variety of places. It sadly enough, perhaps humanised death to the point that we've, depending on your faith basis, that, to put it crudely, you could be just burying another pet. And it's a strong emphasis on celebration, which is fine. But there seems to be nothing to move beyond that ritual to an awareness of a higher existence or a destination beyond the celebration itself is what the church has celebrated. Because the belief was in the resurrection and eternal life. But today the emphasis seems to be more on the emphasis of the eternal day.
That goes back to the interesting point you made before about children having a sort of almost innate connection with ritual and ceremony. How does that translate? Is it as deeply held as perhaps a child, or is it more superficial than that?
Death elicits different responses from different people, and much of our entertainment through the media is in fact tied to death. I used to enjoy NCIS, Agatha Christie, Midsummer Murder, but not the new series, and it's all basically looking at death, and yet it becomes a form of entertainment. But once we bring it closer to home, it tends to have a far more personal and profound impact because of its intimacy. And the sheer fact is, I don't think any of us like to look death in the eyes.
No.
But what I was saying earlier about children, I think they're more adept at handling death sometimes than what adults are.
Well, who in the days when the church was doing the majority of the funerals, there'd be the expectation that at least the priest or the reverend or whomever would follow up. Who follows up now?
Well, I think in most churches, I'd like to think that the clergy still follow through. I just know in the funeral industry that where 2/3 of funerals are conducted in chapels and cemeteries and crematoria, there's an average of 80 to 100 would attend funerals in these facilities today. And over that period of a year, when you're looking at the cycles of the seasons, plus secular and sacred feasts of Christmas, Easter, Anzac Day, birthdays, wedding anniversaries, you might get 1, 2 or 3 max will ring up the particular family or the person and just say, "Hi, I'm just ringing to let you know I'm thinking about you." And it's more indicative too that we've put death almost like a compartment of society today that we just process and push on, like a packet of biscuits. When I was a kid growing up, for example, if a hearse went past, you stood still and bowed your head.
That's right.
And those days, gentlemen often wore hats and would take their hat off and put their hand across their chest. These days, it's not uncommon in the morning coaches with their lights switched on to have other cars weaving in and out.
Yes.
Because that concept of respect for the dead is no longer there, and I think that's more tied to this narcissistic culture we now live in, where I count and everyone else, well, I'm sorry, but I'm the important one at the moment.
Well, what does that say about or what would you think would be the highest point of grief, not forgetting bereavement, but the highest point of grief for the average person today? What would it be loss of job or loss of marriage, loss of whatever?
The biggest area of grief and loss in society today is divorce and separation. And you think of the impact of that on children. I just was amused listening recently to not to the death of Mickey Rooney, but to the life he had, similar to Henry VIII.
Yes.
And he and probably Mickey Rooney both said to their wives, "Well, I won't keep you long." Having clocked up, Mickey Rooney having clocked up 8 of them.
Yes, that's right.
But the complications of 8 relationships and children, and the further grief and loss in his particular case where there was elder abuse involved, where some of his stepchildren were taking his money. Enormous sadness for a man who died at the age of 92, 93. And yet here's a man who's given so much joy and happiness through the media over the decades for generations, is now at the end of his life, is living grief and loss.
Yes, the issue of marriage, of course, it sheets home to governments as well. As the liberalisation of the divorce process it's had a positive input in some areas, but it's certainly made it much easier to enter into a state of grief unknowingly, because I don't think people realise just how important it is.
Well, I think it's important to remember that not only are marriages made in heaven, but so is thunder and lightning. Which also brings me on to another point related to grief and loss, is resilience. Now, in the village community, the community helped sustain the grieving family, where today our addiction tends to be technical. We can live in this world of one with my particular iPhone or iPad. I'm just waiting for an app to come that says, I've got an app now that solves grief and loss. I've got an app now that'll mend a broken heart.
We need an app to control the passage of time. That's what we need. Thanks very much, Vincent. Thank you so much for coming back in, because that grief and loss, we've only just skimmed the surface of it. Very important subject. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
Get active, get social, get on a roll. For more info, visit skateaustralia.org.au.
For interesting and informative interviews, join us for NAT Chat Monday nights at 8. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
The following program carries an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed Video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
She's smiling like a single girl, but she won't meet my eye. Put my best poet face forward, hoping for whatever happens on tour that happens on tour to happen on this tour. Here we are all the famous poets. My infamy proceeds, I hope not to disappoint. Both far from home, she's so much further. She's smiling like a poet who knows a thing or two. I'm smiling like I'm single, forgetting that I'm not. What happens on tour is that I'm always on tour. Nothing happens. It's not that kind of poem. I made a friend. My friend is very cute. Life is strange, my new friend true. I cannot pin down where we have met before.
Oh, that's right. I was instructed to say this is not about Ariana or any other Canadian girl that we may or may not have met on any other tour. She seemed interested. Coming up to you at the bar with an invitation to play pool. Doesn't care when you tell her you're not great at pool. Smiling, she says that's fine. She's just happy to play. Then somehow, you pot 3 balls in a row. And more surprised than she is, you try to explain you've never done that before and you weren't trying to. You were just playing, like she said. After that game, she says come find her again later, back at the bar. She just wants to play another round first with a friend. So you're waiting at the bar, knowing you will never play a game of pool so well ever again.
Adelaide, Alice Springs, Auckland, Ballarat, Barcelona, Belfast, Berkeley, Berlin, Boston, Brisbane, Byron Bay, Caloundra, Chicago, El Dorado, Elizabeth Beach, Frankfurt, Fremantle, Galway, Gold Coast, London, Montreal, Newcastle, New York City, Nimbin, Normal, Perth, Picton, Rottnest Island, Sydney, Tewantin, Toronto, Wellington. Home. Where is home? Where is home? Where is home? Where is home? How far? How far? How far? How far is home from here? Auckland, Ballarat, Belfast, Berkeley, Berlin, Byron Bay, Chicago, Montreal, Newcastle, New York City, Perth, Picton, Sydney, Toronto, Wellington, Melbourne. How far is home? How far is home? How far is home from here?
I wrote this while I was away. I'm not going to say where. It doesn't really matter.
Tell them where.
It found you again. Walking the night in another city you'd never been before, yet looking like so many others you'd been to since June 22, the day you left her. Now this lonely planet bookshelf blur of single-serve countries, of long-forgotten lessons from phrasebook collections, you've long ago lost count of their exact numbers, like how many foreign tongues have you gotten tied with? How much have you misunderstood? Bluffed your way through, decreased in the map folds. How many passport pages dog-eared, blank stares, coffee stained? How much time lost or gained in time zone changes you long ago quit counting? Without doubt, you must have walked down hundreds of such strips by now, stretching back further than you can remember, but never have you failed to retain this date, today's date, June 22. Before then, you'd never pursued the taste of foreign food, never sought sights, Saharan, Himalayan, Mediterranean, metropolitan, cosmopolitan, never knew the freedom of 48-hour friends. Light but for the weight of a pack, no ball and chain holding you back. You've beaten back the beaten track, no home except where you hang your hat. Go it alone instead of taking out a loan. No mortgage on your future. You live cash and carry. Question and answer. Living affirmations and hopes, reasons and regrets right out of your system and right around the globe. But despite a do before you die list now carved down by half, tonight your eyes can't help pave these new paths with old memories. Your confusion of old feelings too consuming, to have sustained, too childish, to have lasted, too sincere, to have survived, too real, to have forgotten or really gotten over. No matter where you go the world over, the date eventually rolls round, and it's 3 years now since leaving. After that final fight to go out and find out she was wrong about everything. Said amongst the ladder and bitterer blows you exchanged, she uttered almost a whisper, a kind of curse, and worse than any other thing she tried to put on you that June 22. Angry tears welled in her eyes, fell defiant as she prophesied that for all your living outside the box, no matter what, you would never, now and forever, be able to find another woman like her. And she was wrong about everything. She was wrong about everything except that.
Sometimes you do covers around the place, and sometimes you do them in small towns, and sometimes you fucking freak people out a little bit. I've been going around the country doing covers of a particular band and doing them as poems, and sometimes it kind of, I don't know, we did this in Margaret River, and I went, okay, I'm not taking the piss. I really think this is a good poem. And then I started, and they were like, yeah, call that a poem. By the end of it, they were going, wow, that's a real beautiful poem, isn't it? The like 5 people that were in the audience were like, yeah, cold chisel. This is a cover of a Don Walker song called Flame Trees. I personally think Don Walker should be the poet laureate of this country. I think he's amazing. And I mean that sincerely. Kids out driving Saturday afternoon just passed me by, and I'm savouring familiar sounds. We shared some history, this town and I can't stop that long-forgotten feeling of her. Time to book a room and stay the night. Number 1 is a happy hour at 1 or 2 hotels. Give me this. I'm going to mess this up, aren't I? Number 1 is to find some friends to say you're doing well. After all this time, your boys look just the same. Number 2 is the happy hour at 1 of 2 hotels. Settle in to play, do you remember so-and-so? Number 3 is never say her name. Oh, the flame trees will blind the weary driver, and there's nothing else can set fire to this town. There's no change, there's no pace. Everything within this place just makes it harder to believe that she won't be around. But oh, who needs that sentimental bullshit anyway? Takes more than just a memory to make me cry, and I'm happy just to sit round a table with old friends and see which one of us can tell the biggest lie. And there's a girl, she's falling in love near where the pianola stands, with her young local factory out of worker just holding hands. And I'm wondering if he'll go or if he'll stay. Do you remember? Nothing stopped us on the beach in our day. Oh, the flame trees will blind the weary driver, and there's nothing else can set fire to this town.
Come on, fellas. Let's get down there.
Hang on. Where's Dave?
Oh, hey, fellas. What do you think? Pretty cool, eh?
Real men look out for each other. Don't let your mates drink and drown.
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3. Yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett.
Now I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes.
It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987. Lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos, it was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
In the Victorian times, when they wanted to show something beautiful, they built a beautiful building for it. Royal Exhibition Building. They thought that beautiful things needed a beautiful setting, and they made a building so beautiful that we still revere it, that we still protect it, that it's world famous. I've got free tickets to Sexpo, and I'm rather hoping that they're on at the Royal Exhibition Centre, but they're not. They're at the Melbourne Exhibition Centre, which is the type of building we build nowadays in order to show off things. A series of big barns joined by a long, dismal passage. And maybe there aren't any beautiful things to show there. Maybe there are only tawdry, cheap things. But mind you, they're a lot of fun. And I go to Sexpo and I think, what would the Victorians have made of this? They would have known about all of these things, but they thought that sex was dark and secret, not open as we think it is. They would have understood the things like the pillows made in the shape of breasts and the chocolates made in the shape of vaginas, because they could get those things in those times, but they were in back streets, they were in small shops. One thing that I think the Victorians would have understood very clearly is the girls on poles over there. There's a girl there at the moment, she's from Brisbane, and her muscles are like walnuts. She's hanging upside down on the pole with her head down. Her legs are straddled out, because after all, it is about sex. And she's climbing up the pole with just her two hands alone. An extraordinary feat. Would the Victorians have understood this? I think they would have. They had strong women, thighs a yard wide in tights, Lottie Lemper. But I don't think they'd have understood the muscles like walnuts. And if they saw pole dancers, it might have been from a visiting Chinese show, because after all, the Chinese have been doing that for 1,000 years. But the Chinese don't have muscles like grapes. They know how to make muscles that are long and smooth, so that you have some girl that looks like a petunia, thin and delicate, and she can crack walnuts in between her elbows. And then I go next door to the motorcycle show, and I think the Victorians would have understood that very well, because they knew all about making things out of steel and chrome and metal that were beautiful and industrial. And looking at all this, maybe I understand how our young people can revere the old, how our young people can revere people like Leonard Cohen, who I don't revere, because in my time we didn't revere the old, and because I'm only interested really in what the young people are doing. But the young do revere the old, and maybe the old battle axes, the survivors, the people who refuse to give up, like Leonard Cohen, also include me. So ultimately, it just comes to an old man looking into the eyes of a young woman, and they communicate because their thoughts are the same. Thank you.
The poem, related to the and lives in a continuum of its own, a continuum devoid of content. This is an viral poem that begins with viral. You know that viral thing that viral. Let me tell you about viral. Story about viral. I was walking down the street and viral. Met this guy. His name was viral. Told me he was viral. And I replied with viral. And soon everything was viral. The grass turned viral. The sky kinda viral. It was spreading like viral. Everyone became viral. Conversation went viral. Words like viral replaced with viral, feeding the viral language viral till all was viral and viral, infectious viral, pervading viral, all viral, viral, viral.
I have a naughty garden gnome who goes out all the time stealing bras and panties from young girls' laundry lines. He likes the frilly, lacy ones. His favourite colour's red. And he leaves the garments home with him and brings them to my bed. But someone must have seen him. The police came to my home. The officers were sceptical when I blamed the garden gnome. So they set up some surveillance and caught the little sprite with a swag of bras and panties coming home that night. It's often said that fiction is less strange than what is true. The gnome got a stern warning from the grinning boys in blue. We both like bras and panties. The gnome, he likes them clean. I like mine pre-wash, scented. But the gnome thinks that's obscene. Why should he be judgmental, act disgusted, call me crude? I never had a garden gnome who was such a little prude.
It's barbie season, so it's time for a barbecue safety check. Clean away any grease build-up. Swap system. Check connections using soap. Check connections using soapy water. When done, turn off clockwise at the bottle first. A quick barbie and gas safety check always means a safe and enjoyable summer.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Had enough of the bad news about carbon dioxide and climate change? Wood is one solution. Trees take CO2 from the air and store it in their wood. They're also renewable, unlike concrete and steel. But the wood you choose should be recycled or from certified plantations or forests. This helps protect areas of high conservation value. So next time you're building or buying something, make it wood and do your world some good.
Fabulous minutes every week. Meet the famous, the fortunate and the fashionable as Steve and Jacqueline take you to all the events around town. Not to be missed, it's the most fabulous 15 minutes you'll ever see.
This is called Déjà Vu en Montmartre. You whisked me too quickly down the cobbled streets. Old apartments, iron lace balconies, facades jutting out. The artist quarter, you said, Montmartre. To you who grew up here, homely clutter. My new world eyes gulped at your old world fretworked spirals, could not get enough. Empathy of heart. You took me to Place du Théâtre, in the shadow of Sacré-Cœur, corner cafe, small table looking out on a street of easels and daubed canvas. When the eclipse occurred, perspective slipped, a time shift. Old eyes eclipsed new eyes, focused a lens on a scene so familiar it was clear. My whole life spent here, in this gas-yellow cafe, reflecting faces, blurring gold in smoky mirrors, the aroma of absinthe, strong coffee, croissant, those morning after red-eyed rituals, and lingering still the nightly smell of paint, still wet on artist smocks, the dancers' top knots, twists of red, swirling silk, lace petticoats and breasts still heaving, sweating their last frenetic finale, leaving on the air faint perfumed powder, rose, lavender, old tobacco sate the senses. In one breath knowing I'd walked back a century to meet myself in another shell. So in this present I sit, blue jeans embroidered, flowers, symbols, long hair patchouli, waistcoated paisley, and my eyes eclipsing, plunging me back to a strange culture, an old city's odour and hue, glimpsing my place in this teetering world of sawdust vagrants, vain mirrors of their idle Bacchus, chalking up debts rebellious, a sketch for a meal at the local cafe, my second home, the artist's quarter, Montmartre, Montmartre, Montmartre.
This next poem is called Inevitable. It's our last
Poet's
poem.
Coda.
Was it? Oh yeah, Poet's Coda. It's got a few names. This is our last poem for the first set.
Used to be called Fucking and Punching. You just bleep that, David. Sorry.
You are just living for the next time you get to open your mouth. The off chance something you've said 50 times before might open a door or strike a chord, and it will mean everything to you if you can make it mean anything to another.
You want them to hear heartbreak in your every breath, joie de vivre with every heartbeat, catharsis coming out of your eyes. Find the phrases to take them back to the places you have been so they can find something there they've also seen. Come out of your poem with pieces of their own.
You want to share these sensations, hold their attention in tension. Make them laugh, make them happy, make them horny, make them angry, make them mournful, make the words, make the sounds of a whole world wrenched open.
This happened to you before. Some wordsmith filled you with thoughts and feelings, found words that went beyond words, set you on fire, set you chasing after that inflammable phrase, reaching for what you believe is the best in yourself. Make your voice artwork.
You have heard it all before, but you have not heard enough yet. You find rooms filled with the socially exhumed who only attune their ears to the sound of their own voices, and you've taken in so much. more than you can ever return.
Scream silent life desperately, oh so desperately quiet. You're trying to find something more in smells of stale cigarette smoke, aftertaste the beer bottles you pay for but don't finish, the sound of your scratching skin and drumming fingertips as you're the last one to leave and one of the few who goes home alone again. You sit inside the boundaries of that moment.
It's loneliness so big it's going to break you, and it did. It still does. Every sleepless night on each dusty floor, ceilings painted unfamiliar with your eyelids, daylight breaks, and all you want is your own bed back. Your bag gets heavier.
Your story starts to smell a little more stale each telling. Hours wasted waiting, retreat into silent spaces to masturbate in desperate private moments carved out of anything you can't get.
You wait for the orgasm so hard it'll shatter your metabolism. It never comes. You want cathartic, romantic revolution, and it's not here. And revelations as profound as a naked God calling your name more beautifully than you've ever heard it before, and you can't hear a thing.
You just want them to listen to you. You want your turn, you want to take it further, and you're so scared the chance will never come.
You've taken it all personally, knowing everyone else in the room has too, and you've so much inside you, though, no way to prove it.
And you are tired and want to stop, bring it all to an end. You want to taunt someone to give you one reason, one fucking reason not to just quit.
But you know already there's no one to taunt, and there is no reason not to quit.
Not that anyone can give you. You sit back down, you get to work again, wait for another day to liquidate this silence.
You feel as old as the seasons, just as weathered. They tell you, enjoy it now while you're young, before life catches up with you. You don't tell them that. Friends younger than you already act much older.
You're not scared of getting old. You're scared that this will end. You're not scared that this will end. You're scared you won't stop when everyone else does.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
The thing I love about Australia is our spirit of mateship and togetherness. And whether it's a drought, a flood or a bushfire, when times are tough, Australians stick together. Well, I'll be spending Australia Day at Tamworth with 40,000 country music mates. It brings people together to celebrate our music and our great country.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
So whether you're laying on a beach, or whether you're camping in the bush, or visiting a European city, you can find it all here at the Getaway Travel Show. life is just one big holiday, isn't it?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I do actually work as well, but I love what I do.
You make it look too easy.
I have a good time.
Yes.
I have a good time. Hopefully it's because when we are filming, we really enjoy the people that we work with. I love the crews that I get to work with. But
I'll work with you, no problem.
Well, you can come along.
Yes, I'll come along.
You can come along. We're doing Canada on Monday, but can you handle minus 15?
Cold weather doesn't work for me.
I know.
Canada. Why would we want to go to Canada?
Well, it's a great destination, 4 seasons, great scenery, lots of things to do, lots of outdoor adventure for Australians who like to get out there and enjoy nature.
Bicycle riding, hiking.
Oh yeah, camping, get a car, go and see some wilderness, wildlife viewing. If you like to travel in winter, there's skiing and snowboarding, and you can go dog sledding, all sorts of activities.
It's everything. Now, what's some of the best cities there?
Best cities, well, Vancouver, beautiful city, and Toronto is very cosmopolitan. It's the biggest city in Canada. Quebec City, beautiful, French.
If you're a first-time traveller, do you have like packages that people can do, like kind of 18 to 35 sort of thing?
Yeah, there are a lot of operators here at the show who actually do coach touring, and so for all age groups. And but you can do your own thing if you want to. So you've got the choice to do both.
The Canadians are real friendly people, aren't they?
They're really friendly.
They hate Americans too, don't they?
Yeah, and they love Australians.
I find that all the trips, it's kind of a little bit of an exercise in serendipity. I'm happy to be sent anywhere. Sometimes we get places that we just are desperate to go to, and we all fight for it. There was Jamaica, Cuba. This year I'm fighting to do Spain.
Fantastic.
Would really, really like to do Spain.
Spanish bull run, all that?
Oh, I'd love to. Oh, no, women can't do it.
Oh, they do.
Women aren't allowed to do it.
They do it, though.
But it's bad luck.
Oh, okay.
Apparently it's not quite kosher.
Well, then you can be sitting on the muscle bar and jump off the statue into the crowd then.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You think I should do that?
Yeah, I think you should do that. Just for television.
Okay, then I'll do it. It would make for great TV, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Paloma would have to be my most favourite place. Now, the Spanish bull run is just mad and crazy. It starts off with a champagne opening, and this is pretty much what goes on after the big bang. Absolutely crazy, and the streets are mad, full of music and full of life. Now we're going to head on our way down to Muscle Bar, very famous for the plaza where people actually get to stand on the podium and jump into the crowd. Some crazy Australian decided to do this, and now it started as a trend. So every year everybody comes down to Muscle Bar, very packed, and jumps into the crowd. People get more injured here than they do on the bull run. We're here safe behind the barricades. We're going to try and see the bull run. You've got to boo the ones at the beginning because they're the chickens, and basically start off the match, and everyone's going to start running, and they run into the main stadium, and then basically that's where the bulls get their revenge, and we'll have a look at that as well. Here's the major event in Papaloma, the Spanish bull run. I'll see you back at the expo. Got to run. There's a bull behind me.
What are your top 10 destinations?
Well, I don't know if I could actually list the
10.
top 10.
Too many?
But I have found the places that I really enjoy and remember are ones that I probably wouldn't go to on a normal holiday. For me, as I say, I just did a quick trip around Tassie, but I loved China. I loved Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Last year, 2 years ago, the story that we did around Palestine, the travel company's now broken up. The young guys that we did the walk with have been packed off to the States. So it's places that you wouldn't normally go to yourself that are...
And you wouldn't expect certain things in these countries too, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
No expectations, you probably have the best holiday in your life.
Exactly, that's the best way to go, with an open mind. Great if you could go with an open checkbook, but for most travellers that's not usually the case.
No.
But definitely if you go with an open mind and you taste all the foods, if you take on all of the adventures, all the opportunities, then that is what it's about.
The Manchester stand, because you're from Manchester. Yes. All right, we're going to check out Manchester because we're at the British stand. It's Manchester, apart from the football hooligans that go on there.
Oh, well, I don't know about the football because the big event this year is obviously the Commonwealth Games in Manchester.
Now, you're a part of that.
July. We are, yes.
And what are you doing?
We're promoting it around the world and within the UK.
So what does the city have to do to prepare for something like that?
Well, it's huge infrastructure, new stadia. Manchester City will inherit the Commonwealth Games Stadium after the Games.
Okay.
There's a whole cultural festival, events, attractions, which start on Commonwealth Day, March 11th, and run through till beyond the Games. So it's wider than the Games.
So that's the year to go?
This is the year to go,
This is the year to go. So what are the other attractions in Britain?
Well, the other attractions in Britain, this year the National Museums are free.
Yes.
So places like the National Museums and Galleries on Merseyside, Liverpool, eight museums which you can get free entry into. National Museum of Science and Industry in Manchester.
Which is great.
Oh, superb. Yeah, they're all full days out. It's good value. Yeah. There's plenty of attractions, accommodation to suit all tastes. If you look for value for money or value for time, you can find good deals around good quality accommodation.
So the best bet is sort of to keep out of London then, in a way, because that's really quite expensive?
It's like any capital city. It's probably the same as coming to Sydney. Yeah. But even, in London you can have the great attractions that are free.
It's all about me.
Why is it about you?
Because I'm the star. I'm from Movie World, Austin.
Movie World.
Movie World.
For young and old.
For young and old, and me.
So what's the attraction with Warner Brothers?
All right, well, it's not just Warner Brothers, it's all the three parks. Sea World, Wet and Wild Water World, and Movie World. All right.
I guess you're at Movie World, right?
Yes, I am, baby, yeah.
Funny about
so
that.
what it's all about, all right, you get a 3-park super pass, a day in each of the parks, and then one for free.
Oh, fabulous.
I know.
So you can go back and visit one that you like?
One you like. Yeah, if you like being wet, like Wet and Wild, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you like being wet, right?
Yes, I do. Yes. And or Movie World to come and see me, or if you're banned around to the TV, you've got the old polar bears, all right?
SeaWorld, the attractions. Okay, so that's the new attraction at SeaWorld.
We got the two new little, what do they call, little cubs? Lutik, Leah and Lutik from Russia.
Okay.
All the way.
Do they speak English? They don't understand, do they?
No idea what.
No idea what we're talking about. Tickets.
Tickets.
How much?
$141 for a super park. That's all right. Now, have a listen.
Not bad. That's not bad. No, I thought that was good.
Not only do you get you get the day free.
Yeah, you get the day free.
It's about $50, say $54.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On average, so
on average,
it's just under. Yeah, it's just over like $50 a ticket. Or,
groovy. Yeah.
Groovy.
Yes,
I enjoy.
And where's this going? Because I'd really like to know.
I'm not telling you now.
No, all right then.
I'm not going to know.
Okay,
it's my secret and I'm keeping it.
All right then.
Beautiful outfits. Tell me about the outfits.
This is a classical dance we do. It's called Bharatanatyam, and it's from South India, and we wear these dresses for the dance.
Is there traditional colours as well, or is it just
just anything? Yeah.
Just the style of the dress. Now I noticed you've got your henna tattoo going. Oh, I just touched. Have you got some on your palm as well? Sorry. Now this is very traditional, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what's this mean? What do people do this for?
mainly for like big occasions like weddings and stuff. There's nothing like traditional about it, but like people wear it for big occasions and stuff.
So it's a fancy sort of dressing up type of thing.
Yeah.
What is henna?
It's powder mixed with water with henna oil. There's a special oil, and
So it's the oil that does the penetration, yeah. Look at your hand.
Yeah, I just tried this.
Messy. How long are you going to leave that on for?
Maybe 6 to 8 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously you've been teaching the dance style.
right, yeah.
Where does it come from?
It's actually South Indian dance, South Indian classical dance called Bharatanatyam.
And what's the story behind the dance? Is there is there a wedding dance or ceremony dance
It's
or?
pure classical South Indian dance.
Okay.
Yeah, it's belong to Tamil Nadu.
Essential backpacker wear. You've got your shoes, you've got your 3/4. You guys are jam packing that bag chock-a-block.
Yeah.
Are you planning on a big holiday or what?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Apart from around the world by the looks of that bag.
Europe.
Europe. You together?
Yeah.
No. Hey, let's go to Europe then. See you later. So where do you want to go? What's the best bet? Start off in London and France.
Yeah.
Why France?
Because I love it.
Oh, you've been before?
Yeah.
So backpacked or?
No.
So you travel a lot?
No, we've got a farm.
Got a farm.
Yeah,
So
don't
what does
get
that
away
mean? You
anywhere.
can't travel out the paddocks?
Last time we actually managed more than 4 days away was 6 years ago.
Oh, wow. So well-earned holiday there.
Yeah.
So Europe's the number one location for
7
yourself?
weeks, not coming back.
Not coming back.
7 weeks. Yes.
So why not America or something like that?
More food over there. I'm a chef, so I'm going to go to France, Germany, Italy. Eat and eat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So pork knuckles in Germany, here we come.
Trotters in Germany.
Yeah.
I think I'll go pasta in Italy, in France, everything.
Baguette and cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's the way to do it.
He's very rude.
Rude?
No, you're not.
I'll go back to England, will you? The British stands over that way. The British stands over that way.
I'll go over and have a look in a minute.
I'm here in Brazil. I'm halfway ready for Mardi Gras. This thing hurts. Now, what's the attraction with Brazil?
The Mardi Gras.
Of course.
Yeah, it was last weekend, so you just missed it.
I missed it?
Yeah, next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
So February what?
I don't know the dates for next year. They change every year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it'll be Feb or March next year.
So where is the best place? I've heard that Rio is actually not as good for the carnival, that there's another place outside Rio that's better?
Well, throughout the whole of Brazil, the carnival, they all have their own little parties, but Rio's the big one.
Rio's the big one. Have you been there yourself?
Haven't been to carnival, no. Next year we're planning to go.
So how much is it to get to, say, something like carnival?
It'll be around about 2,500.
You do packages or?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So how far in advance would you have to book?
Usually a couple of months to get a ticket. We can get you in the full costume and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
So you wear the whole outfit,
Yeah.
like I'm halfway there. So who does that? What, you organise with a trip over there?
We'll put you with the samba school, so you go into the parade, you get your costume, you've got people to dance with for the whole weekend.
Oh, we've got to do that.
Yeah,
We've got to do that. Can you organise that for our show next year? For sure. Now, do you have to samba as well?
Yeah, they'll teach you all the moves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Moving and grooving. So Brazil's the place then.
Place to be.
Weather, temperature?
Hot.
Really hot?
Yeah, at this time of year, high 30s, sweaty.
I'm going. You've sold me. I'm going to leave this on for the rest of the day. What do you reckon? Okay, you've probably got a million stories travelling the world. What's your most favourite? What's your funniest? How do you remember them all?
There are so many. I've had heaps of really weird experiences. I did have this really odd experience a few years ago. I was totally jet lagged. I'd booked into the airport hotel just outside of Bangkok, and it is a mad hotel. It's usually overbooked. Often I've been given a key to my room and I'll open it up and there's somebody on the bed already just going, excuse me, taken. Anyway, this one...
Oh, sorry, my room, but...
Yeah. it's absolutely mad. And this one night I was there, I had fallen asleep in my room and I was woken up to the sound of a kerfuffle outside my bedroom window. I was on the ground floor. My window was open, ajar, and then there was a knock on the door, and the garden staff and the maids were at the door, and they said, "Excuse me, we need to come into your room, something in your room." And I turned around, and there was a black python that had slipped through the window, and the gardener needed to get the python out of the room.
I guess it would, wouldn't he, really?
You know, yeah, I've met some pythons
And
in
you would
my
have
time.
been, from now on, booking first floors, no ground floors anymore from now on.
I did learn a lesson out of it, but that was a pretty odd experience.
That's the biggest snap you've probably had all week.
Tell me about
Yes.
it. Yeah, we won't go into that.
No, we won't go there.
Yeah.
Why come down to the expo? Well, there's lots of information. You've got like film tents of the countries you might choose to visit, with basically people explaining what there is in that country to see and do. And we'll just check out. What are you looking for?
Just looking for a trip in Egypt.
Egypt?
Yep.
Why Egypt?
I've actually been there once before, but it's such a great place, like with the pyramids and that. So much history. So it's definitely worth going to see.
So too good that you want to go back.
Exactly, yeah.
So what do you want to do this time round, second time round?
Oh, this time round I'm thinking of doing more of a like an overland trek or something like that. So maybe going to Jordan. Yeah, and then go through Jordan and eventually go down to Egypt and that.
Do the Felucca thing up the Nile and all that?
I've done the Felucca already.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I've been to Egypt 3 times myself.
Yeah.
Now, where are you from?
I'm from England.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from England and that. So I've been travelling around. So I've been in Southeast Asia. I've been in New Zealand, and now just cruising around Melbourne.
So you travel a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love New Zealand. Yeah, absolutely love New Zealand.
So what's your favourite country?
Have to say New Zealand.
New Zealand, really?
Yeah, because my girlfriend's actually from New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
If she ever sees this video, she's like, oh. Yeah,
So you've got a bit of an intral mix. How do you handle that? What, you live in New Zealand now?
No, we lived in London. Yeah. Live in London, and we come on September. We decided to do some travelling, so we went to Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand, and then I was in New Zealand for a couple of months when the South Island, which was fantastic.
So what's going to happen? You go back to England, she stays in Kiwiland, or what?
I don't know. I mean, her visa's run out as well.
So you're in a difficult situation here, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
Right. How do you handle a long distance relationship?
She's going to come over. She's going to apply for the Irish visa.
Oh, okay. Not the English visa?
Yeah, no, she can't no more. She's run out.
She's done it?
Yeah, she's done it.
Oh, this makes it really difficult.
Yeah, it does make it difficult. So.
That's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And you find the government's probably not really liking what goes on.
Yeah, so...
Why don't you just stay down in Kiwiland?
Oh, I don't know. It's a bit quiet.
Strauss walls. So lots of history there again. You've got Mozart chocolate balls. Sakatort, does anyone have one of them? Great story about the Sakatort. Then also you've got your ski fields, your Tyrol, so you can do all your ski holidays. A lot of people like to work in ski fields, and that's always an option as well.
Fiji, now what a place to come to. You're Fijian, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
What language do they speak?
Fijian, English and Hindustani.
A bit of everything then.
Yeah, you could say that.
So why would I want to go to Fiji apart from the beautiful weather?
It's a good place to relax. The variety in Fiji, I mean, it's a place for holidays for families, weddings, honeymooners, renewal of vows, backpackers, sports, a wide range of activities there for
everything.
Yeah.
Great coral reef.
Honest, he wouldn't include the Fijian people.
Oh, not the Fijian
No, I'm saying
people.
that's another very good reason to go there.
And you've been to Fiji?
Yes, on January.
So is it a group of islands, or is it just one island?
It's a group of islands. It's comprised of 300 islands in Fiji. There's about 10% of those that are actually uninhabited.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Can you get on those?
You can, but usually with going on to outer islands, you actually need special permission from like the Native Land Trust Board or the Ministry.
You get shot or something.
Yeah, no, not
hunted down. Is it cannibalism there? Cannibals there? Used to be. Really?
Yes.
So they don't serve human on the menu anymore?
No, they got rid of that a long time
What
ago.
happened? It turned civil. We don't like civil countries. So what are some of the best islands to visit then?
It depends on what you look for. I mean, like for the youngers, 18 to 25, you could try Beachcomber. Right up to
It's all clubbing and dancing and all that sort of stuff?
Something along those lines. And also, if you're looking for something more upmarket, real luxury type of accommodation, you could try the Wakai Club, which Nicole Kidman was actually in last year. And if not, Vatulele, which is an all-inclusive island resort. just up at the main island.
I understand half of those islands. You say it so quickly and naturally. It's like, Ah, so where did you go then?
I went to Castaway Island.
Castaway, like the TV show?
Well, you could actually see the film Castaway, where the film
the
Tom
movie,
Hanks was. You could see that island from where we stayed. But no, Castaway Island was brilliant.
And what was the attraction with that island?
The whole setup. They had wonderful meal packages, which were great value. The island's set up with 2 beaches, so if you want to get away from the wind and things, you've got plenty of shelter. All the inclusions of the non-motorised water facilities, you had canoes and catamarans, and it's great snorkelling. The snorkelling I thought was almost as good as the Barrier Reef.
Oh, I'd love to get under the water.
Thousands of fish
Come
just
up to you.
swishing past. Yes,
Oh.
feeding them. You could feed them all.
So the fish are still cannibalistic then, aren't they? The people aren't, but the fish are. You're a Virgin Blue girl?
I am a Virgin Blue girl.
Now, how hard was it, Virgin, to get to Australia?
Very hard.
But you made it.
We did, but very easy because people have taken us in so well.
So how's it going?
Excellent, excellent. With all the public support that we've had, it has been really good. The public are really supporting us.
And the fact that ANZ's sort of on its way, here, there and everywhere.
That was unfortunate that happened, and hopefully we can all be together and keep flying too.
So what does Virgin have to offer?
Virgin has a lot to offer. Mainly our customer service is the most important thing that we are here for, and also our in-flight entertainment as well. We have
on board
aerobics and all that.
Aerobics? Get out of here. So it's the party plane? What's aerobics? What do you do?
Aerobics, you just, so you don't get those varicose veins and all the rest of it. We just get you up and moving and about and everything like that. So
clenching butt cheeks and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, I think some of them are in there too, yes.
Okay, do you serve Virgin Cola on board?
No, we don't actually.
No Virgin products on board?
Virgin merchandise is available.
Oh, okay,
definitely.
like, the CDs and all that sort of stuff.
The hat and Richard's book as well, that's available.
Richard's book, Richard Branson's book, great, fabulous. It's just a big gimmick, isn't it, really?
No, we're totally serious about everything that we do.
Flight to Sydney, how much?
Flight to Sydney starts off from Melbourne at about $77.
Does that change?
Changing depending on availability.
Okay, and how much in advance do you have to book for something like that?
Okay, you could be lucky enough to book a day before and get that price.
Oh, really?
It just depends on how many people before you have actually booked on the flight.
Okay, so it's not a case of just like there's 2 allocated seats at $77 and that's it?
That's the thing with us. We actually allocate the same amount of seats over each price bracket, so that's what makes it fair.
So now we're here at the YHA, standing for Youth Hostel Association. How many hostels are there out in the world?
4,560 countries.
Is that all? So you've covered everything, basically?
Pretty much.
And what's so good about them?
Well, they provide low-cost accommodation for backpackers and independent travellers, and they're basically the Hyatt of the backpacker world.
And standard? Is there a universal standard for...
Pretty tough standards that they all have to meet. We have hostels we own and hostels that are affiliated with us, and they all have to meet pretty high standards these days.
So obviously got to be clean, hygienic.
Clean, safe, fire, all the fire standards have to be met. So.
Now what, is it all dorms? Do you have private rooms?
No, we have a mixture of dorms, private rooms, rooms with en-suites now. Rooms with shared bathrooms as well. So
it's a bit luxurious now.
It's getting a bit luxurious now, it's the way the market's moving.
So nobody wants to live in a room with 40 others?
No, if you don't want to, you can avoid that these days.
Okay. So what are you talking price-wise? Does it vary from country to country?
It varies from country to country. We tend to kind of govern ourselves depending on where you are in the world. But low $20 here.
A night, roughly.
Roughly for accommodation in our city hostels here in Melbourne. So it's pretty good value.
Do they provide like brekkie?
Sometimes, there's breakfast specials. So.
Do you have to be a member of the YHA?
You don't have to be a member. There is an extra charge if you're not. And if you are a member, you will get preference.
So how do you obtain a member's card?
Well, you can either log on the internet, www.yha.com.au. You can come into our travel centre in 83 Hardware Lane in the city.
And membership is how much?
Membership is $52 for 1 year.
For 1 year?
Yep.
And that basically gives you a low rate wherever you go?
Low rate wherever you go. A whole heap of discounts around Melbourne with your card. Discounts on travel insurance, bus about, trips, everything.
Main reason we're here is for the World Cup soccer, being the world's biggest
biggest sporting event.
How many tourists would come to see that?
Oh, well, from Australia, we're hoping for at least 10,000 or so.
10,000,
yes.
wow. Just going there to see the game and go back?
Yes, because you have a lot of English supporters in Australia. You know how crazy the English are about soccer. So we think that there will be a lot from it, even though the Australian team failed to qualify. Yeah. And they're not going, but there are a lot of ethnic communities in Australia. And we've got a soccer competition here 3 times a day over the whole weekend. We've got prizes of soccer balls and soccer pens to give away and other good prizes.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The 3 major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do. 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global, acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "Good day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it. It's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.